people bring kind of like really interesting perspectives, and the variation in that perspective is what makes this a really valuable event, I think.
Well, I think these conferences are always a great networking opportunity. You seem to have a real mix in there in terms of really kind of quite established companies with like smaller. I think everyone in there obviously knew their facts around packaging. I don't think there was anyone brand new. But there were some useful facts I think that everyone picked up from all the different presenters, which is great.
It's fantastically engaging. Obviously, you have so many of the leading companies here, both in manufacturing, brands, retailers. It's a real coming together of people all on the same agenda. And again, it intersects beautifully with what we're trying to do educationally for the next generation of packaging talent. So it's a win all round for everybody.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was a great setup, fantastic audience, very engaged, fantastic questions at the end as well that challenge you and make you think, but give you a good opportunity to kind of show the development of what we've been up to.
I loved yesterday with the brands. There was a lot of openness, a lot of honesty. None of us are perfect. We know that. We know how challenging it is. So I got a lot out of there. I'm catching up with a couple of them next week, following yesterday. So yeah, it's been really good.
It's always good to hear from members within the industry in terms of manufacturing, so people like us at glass, plastics, paper. It's also good as well sometimes that we don't get the opportunity to hear from independent businesses that are from outside of the manufacturing but are there to help us with advice and information on how we can reduce our carbon output. It's always good to hear from those people that we don't necessarily get much involvement with until we get networking events like this where we can have those conversations.
As for what issues will be on our tables next year for discussion, I feel certain that recycled content, recycling quality, getting hands on recyclates there comes up 3 times already. More than that, net zero, circularity, circular economy and also sustainability are going to be continuous issues that we'll want on the agenda next year as well. And all brands, retailers and manufacturers have an interest in those. So I expect to see a full house next year.
So there's so many challenges in the packaging industry, and one of the things that the OPRL we're really keen on is just trying to drive that. How do we make it as simple as possible? You know, like OPRL has always been about the consumer message. How do we make it possible? And what we'll hear over the course of 2 days is about the complexities, what's involved in the industry, what's going on. And that's really important for us as an industry and as sectors to really understand and get to the bottom of. But actually, we need the consumer to be able to do it. And we need the consumer to be able to understand. So we need to understand the complexity so that we can make it simple for the consumer, for them to do their thing.
I think as someone who's totally motivated in the world of packaging, spent most of my career in it, it's an inconvenient truth that it is complicated, that nobody really wants to understand, and yet has a vital role in feeding us, keeping food supplied to us through our supply chains. But equally, there's a massive problem with regards to waste and carbon emissions, and I think packaging has a massive role to play in that. And because I'm a father and a grandfather, it's beholden on me to be able to pass that benefit and hopefully a better lifestyle to them.
Change in packaging has to be a holistic, shared, tripartite effort. It takes for manufacturers, for brands, for retailers. Everybody has to be involved in the conversation to get the real change that everybody's aiming for. I'd like to have more of my students here, if I'm honest. As an apprenticeship, they work for so many of the leading companies. And I think letting more companies see what we can achieve through collaborative effort, it's just get everyone to the table. That's where the real change will happen, is when the conversations become shared and the efforts become joint.